Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on all your favorite social media platforms. The Disney theme parks are all about the details, from Easter eggs to relics of the past, and even some mysteries. Imagineers have incorporated so much for us to discover. So today, let's go on a little scavenger hunt across the Walt Disney World theme parks. We'll discuss some Disney history and explore 7 hidden secrets at Walt Disney World. Number 7. When Star Wars Launch Bay opened at Hollywood Studios in 2015, it was always thought to be a temporary place for all things Star Wars until Galaxy's Edge opened. Well, fast forward 6 years and it is still open. Even though it's not as lively as it once used to be, Star Wars Launch Bay still has some models on display as well as a few meet and greets. Well, to the right of the entrance to meet BB-8, you'll find this little nook in the wall. Over top, there's a phrase written in Arabesh which translates to lost and found. And that's exactly what this appears to be. There's all kinds of mechanical stuff in here, including C-3PO's arm. Tons of other droid parts fill the shelves, but these aren't just from any old droids. There are 2 specific pieces in here that you might recognize. On the top shelf, you'll see what looks like binoculars labeled G290, and then on the bottom shelf, it has one that says G240. Well, G290 and G240 are the 2 droids you can find in the queue at Star Tours. G290 is the bag scanner droid.
Well, safe travels, my friends, and whoa! Fashion alert!
And G240 is the security droid.
Is that your original head? It's quite becoming.
Well, these pieces displayed in the Launch Bay Lost and Found are actually parts from old audio animatronics. So when Star Tours opened in 1989, the original droids had a bit of a different look.
How are you? I'm G290. Relay droid.
G290 was a repair droid, whereas G240 was the security droid. When the ride reopened as Star Tours The Adventure Continues in May of 2011, the droids emerged with their new looks. Now, I'm not sure if they built completely brand new animatronic figures, but they definitely gave them new heads and removed any other accessories. When Star Wars Launch Bay opened in 2015, it was then that the old droid heads resurfaced. Isn't that cool? And if you look on the top shelf, just behind G290's head is the hydraulic tank from his back. I bet that not many people have looked inside this display. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you would never realize that these were pieces from some old Star Tours animatronics. And while we're on the topic of animatronics from the original Star Tours, today you can still find one of the old Captain Rex animatronics in the queue. Captain Rex used to pilot the Starspeeder before C-3PO, and he was also removed during the ride's reimagining in 2011. While you're walking by, you might just hear him glitch and mutter a couple of lines of dialogue from the old ride.
Yeah. I meant to do that. A little shortcut. I have a very bad feeling about that.
Many of these original Star Tours animatronics may be gone, but they have not been forgotten, if you know where to look. Number 6. The Starbucks inside Connections Cafe at Epcot is almost always packed. So if you ever find yourself stuck in line waiting for that caffeine fix, don't just look down at your phone to pass the time. Look even further right down to the ground. See that Art Deco style grid on the floor? Well, it's not just a fancy design. It's actually a part of Disney history. When Imagineers were designing Connections Cafe, they pulled inspiration straight from Walt Disney's original plans for Epcot.
Epcot will take its cue from the new ideas and new technologies that are now emerging from the creative centers of American industry. It will be a community of tomorrow that will never be completed, but will always be introducing and testing and demonstrating new materials and new systems.
Walt's vision for this community of tomorrow was dubbed Progress City. and that Radial City layout is what you're standing on in Connections Cafe. Now, a small piece of the original Progress City model still lives on today. You can spot it during your ride on the People Mover over at Magic Kingdom.
First up, Progress City. Walt Disney's amazing dream for a community of tomorrow. Did you know Progress City inspired Epcot? There are a lot of the visionary ideas throughout Walt Disney World. Look, there's even a tiny People Mover.
The full model used to be displayed at Disneyland, where it was the grand finale on the second floor of Carousel of Progress. Now, even though Walt's full vision for Epcot was never fully realized, pieces of it still came to fruition. So next time you're waiting in line at Starbucks, take a minute to look down and admire the lines and designs of Walt's Progress City. Number 5. The Haunted Mansion is full of all sorts of frightfully fun details for you to discover while you're waiting in line. Well, just as you enter the cemetery in the standby queue, you'll walk by 5 busts of the Dread family. Now, before you walk any further, there's a little murder mystery here for you to solve. The sequence of events paints a chilling picture of family betrayal, greed, and it involves all 5 of these family members. Each bust has an epitaph containing clues about who murdered who. It begins with Uncle Jacob. He was very wealthy and his family members wanted his money. Uncle Jacob's epitaph reads, "Greed was the poison he had swallowed. He went first, the others followed. His killer's face he surely knew. Now try to discover who killed who." So obviously, the murderer is one of Jacob's family members, and it sounds like he was poisoned. Now, each of the epitaphs also has a symbol at the top that leads you to the murderer. The only one who has something that resembles poison is Birdie. It's a bottle with a skull and bones, so it has to be him. Not to mention there's a snake wrapped around his neck. It's probably a poisonous snake. So we can conclude that Birdie murdered Uncle Jacob to get all of his money. Now, Birdie's epitaph reads, "Avid hunter and expert shot. In the end, that's what he got." Well, it sounds like he was shot, and right beside Birdie is Aunt Florence, who, wouldn't you know it, has a pistol on her epitaph. This leads us to discover that Aunt Florence murdered Birdie probably out of revenge for killing her husband, Uncle Jacob. Now, when it comes to Aunt Florence, her epitaph reads, "Never did a dishonorable deed, yet found face down in canary seed." Well, the twins aren't so sweet looking because if we look down at their epitaph, there's a symbol of a bird. Not only that, there's also a big bag of bird seeds on their stone. So they murdered Aunt Florence by what sounds like suffocating her with bird seeds. Now the twins' epitaph reads, "Departed life while in their beds, with identical bumps on identical heads." The last family member left is Cousin Maud, and wouldn't you know it, her epitaph has a hammer. So she murdered the twins in their sleep. Now Cousin Maud's epitaph reads, "Our sleeping beauty who never awoke. The night her dreams went up in smoke." This implies that Maud died in her sleep. But did she really? Well, at the end of the Haunted Mansion ride, as you approach the hitchhiking ghosts, there's actually a picture to the left of them. It's hard to see on camera with show lights, but in this lights on footage, you can kind of see that it's a picture of Cousin Maud holding a match. It turns out she did not die after all and was able to take all of Uncle Jacob's money. So next time you're in line at Haunted Mansion, take a closer look as you're passing by. There's more to the Dread family than what meets the eye. Number 4. Back in 2012, Disney opened Storybook Circus as the first phase of the new Fantasyland expansion. It was inspired by the 1941 feature film Dumbo, and from top to bottom, this mini-land is riddled with storytelling. One of my favorite details of Storybook Circus is right in the pavement. There's a lot going on down here that you've probably just walked right over and have never even noticed. So Storybook Circus tells the story of the Casey Jr. train pulling into town and setting up their amusements in Carrollwood Park. Now, it's not as common anymore, but we all know that animals used to be a big part of the circus. Here at Magic Kingdom, animals still play a large role, and if you walk around the land and look down, you'll see the footprints of some of the animals that have been brought into town for the circus. Just outside Big Top Souvenirs, it looks like some camels made their way inside, as well as a lion, and there are some other animals. Storybook Circus definitely has some monkeys on the loose, and of course, a circus would not be complete without elephants, big and small. These little baby elephant prints have to belong to Dumbo since they lead right up to the ride. Another fun detail that I love pointing out are all the peanuts in the pavement that Dumbo and the other elephants have dropped. Fun fact, it is just a myth that elephants like peanuts, but in Dumbo they live off the stuff. So it makes sense that Imagineers hid these concrete peanuts in the ground. Again, this is another one of those small little details that's easy to literally step over, but it adds a whole extra layer of storytelling to Storybook Circus. Number 3. The Backlot Express at Hollywood Studios feels like a time capsule. That behind-the-scenes aspect of the old Disney MGM studios is still alive and well in here. It's so nostalgic. Well, next time you're inside Backlot Express, head to the back of the restaurant and find this little room. It's the stunt hall office. If you peek inside, it feels very lived in, like someone just quickly stepped out and will be right back to continue their work. With so much detail in this room, I knew there would be some Disney history left behind. Sure, there was an old Disney Parks cup, but what caught my eye were the blueprints rolled up all over the office. Want to know the best part? These are all real original blueprints from the glory days of Disney MGM Studios. So first up on the desk, there's one for the fire alarm system plan for Voyage of the Little Mermaid. If we look at the stack leaning up in the corner, the file name abbreviations give us some clues about what they are for. So this one to the left, if we turn it around, it appears to be the electrical plans for New York Street, which then turned into Streets of America. Above that, GMR stands for the Great Movie Ride, so there's some architectural goodies rolled up in here. I would love to be able to unravel it and see what's inside. Then we have another one for the post-production building and studio tour bridge. That, I'm guessing, is this bridge that used to connect the sound stages for the old production studio walking tour. The bridge, along with the soundstage to the right, was demolished, and it's now the entrance into Toy Story Land. Lastly, looking at the blueprints that are unraveled a bit, while inspecting it closely, it says it relates to New York Street Project Grandstand. It has a date of 2003, and during this time, Project Grandstand was the codename for the Lights Motors Action Stunt Show. There's even an overall outline of the amphitheater and the stage in the corner of the paper. So, if you haven't taken time to explore Backlot Express, definitely do it because you never know what goodies you might find. Number 2. Disney loves using forced perspective to make things appear a lot bigger than they actually are, like Expedition Everest or even the buildings on Main Street. Now, here at Epcot, there is one building in particular that uses forced perspective to make it look much smaller. In World Showcase, Imagineers wanted you to be able to see the American Adventure Pavilion from across the lake. If they kept the architecture accurate to the 1700s colonial style, it would be so small that you wouldn't be able to see it. Not to mention, it would not cover the massive show building for the American Adventure Theater. So the entire building is actually 5 stories tall, but Imagineers used forced perspective to make it look like it's only 3 stories, matching that quaint colonial style of building. Just look at the size of all the people compared to the doorway. It's massive. You do enter the building on ground level, but what's also on ground level are the animatronics for the show. They're all stored beneath the audience on these giant moving platform stages.
All these figures travel on 2 wagons, you can say. Now these wagons are extremely heavy, thousands of pounds, and they hold all of the figures, all the electronics, hydraulic and pneumatic cylinders, the whole equipment, or ball of wax, you could say. And these figures have to be moved into position exactly and precisely to the point where they come up and hit their cue every time.
This is why you need to travel up the escalator to get into the theater and can't access it from ground level. Also, just look at the height difference between the stage and the theater's entrance. That's a very steep rake in the floor, which just gives you an idea on the height of this building. So while the front of the American Adventure might look period accurate, behind it is a massive theater that houses one of the most technologically complex shows at Epcot. Number 1. If you haven't played A Pirate's Adventure Treasure of the Seven Seas before at Magic Kingdom, you're definitely missing out. This interactive game debuted in 2013, and it takes you all across Adventureland where you get to interact with many different scenes. Now, next to the exit of Pirates of the Caribbean, you'll find the potion brewing scene. When activated, it has some really cool smoke effects, but what you're going to want to do is head to the right, looking at the bottom left section of this shelf. There are a lot of different artifacts inside, but on the bottom, you'll find a wicker dish, and placed on top are 3 different items. Well, these aren't just any old items, and all 3 of them pay tribute to extinct interactive games both here at Magic Kingdom and at Epcot. So first off, in the center, there's a badge with KP carved into it. This is actually a badge from Kim Possible, a World Showcase Adventure. The game ran from January of 2009 until May of 2012, and that KP badge was used all across the park. Next, the biggest item on the dish is a platypus skull and a fedora. If you couldn't guess, this pays tribute to Agent P's World Showcase Adventure at Epcot, which ran after Kim Possible from June of 2012 to February of 2020. Lastly, there's a metal badge with a ribbon. This just happens to be a pin from Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. It was another interactive game that ran from February of 2012 until January of 2021, and it took you all around Magic Kingdom. After you completed the entire game, you'd be offered this Master Sorcerer pin at the end. The one inside this case has definitely seen better days. So next time you're playing Pirate's Adventure or just walking by, take a little detour. You might just stumble on some forgotten pieces of Disney's interactive past. So what's your favorite hidden secret at Walt Disney World? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.